Good morning and welcome to today's episode of the Pivotcast. I'm your host, Sarah the Pivoter, and here on the Pivotcast, I interview super rad humans from around the world doing epic things in all walks of life. This is a platform to share their voice and bring their story and more value to you. So, in this live interview, we're going to hear some super rad ideas from Sarah Hayles. Sarah's are awesome. She's going to share her pivot from being a high powered woman in a male dominated industry, which sounds familiar if you guys know who I am, to starting her own business. And she'll give us the DL on some simple steps for those very first steps that you need to take so that you can see for yourself the truth behind entrepreneurship and transferable skills, something we have in common. So I'm not the only one that says this. Maybe it's a Sarah thing. I don't know. But what we're going to be doing in this episode of the Pivotcast is going over how to pivot with poise and pizzazz. So in total alignment with the Pivoter way, Sarah and I are going to outline some actionable steps so you can pivot towards your new vision and take aligned action. Now, no matter where you're joining us from today, whether it's here on Instagram or on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, please do pop your comments in the below. Interact with us live. I'll try to catch as many questions as I can, and then we'll also answer them after the show. These videos will also be posted across all social channels, so pick your poison and we'll get started. So without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest on to the StreamYard because she's not there yet. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Sarah and I met through our coach, Kamal Simon, and we're both in a program together. And we bonded over the fact that not only do we have the same namesake, but we also worked in a male-dominated industry. I was in aviation, and Sarah, you were in mining. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I still do currently work in mining. I do a lot of consulting, but it's not my full-time gig anymore.
Okay, understood. So I have a little bit of a bio that Sarah sent me. And so she's not only a master's degree qualified engineer, she's a wife, a mother of two, and she owns her own e-commerce business called West of the Waves. That's why we're here on Instagram with the e-commerce platform that she's got. She also has a top rating business podcast, which she and I have recorded an episode together for, and she's also a business coach. So very similar to myself, she has this huge career where she was high flying, super powered woman in this male dominated fields and mining for 19 years, both in Australian and international projects, managing joint ventures with some companies in Japan, South Korea, India, and Brazil. So very much like me, loving the APAC region. And then while she was on maternity leave, you decided, Sarah, to take a break and start your own e-commerce business. Can you walk us a little bit through that decision process and how you got to where you are today?
Well, thank you again so much for having me. How that happened was, having had such a high-powered career and using my brain all the time, I was fortunate that with my first little baby, he was just an angel. He slept when he was supposed to. He ate when he was supposed to. And I had a very good birth and I was feeling really good. And I was sitting there looking at this perfect little baby in his basket, thinking, what am I going to do if I don't have a project to keep my busy mind busy? That sounds funny. I will go nuts. So I was talking to my brother and one of my children is coming down the hallway. Oh my goodness. I said to my husband, can you please make sure they don't come down the hallway? But anyway, here they are.
This is the working from home lifestyle.
Yes, this is the working from home lifestyle. And anyway, he's calling out to me, Sarah. Oh my gosh.
That's okay. Bring him on the interview. We're pivoters here. We know how to roll with the punches.
Okay.
This is called being a mom and having your own business as well.
Oh my gosh.
Bring him on camera and tell him to say hello.
Yeah. Oh my God. He is literally saying to me, Mommy, can you get me something to eat? This is working from home. Anyway, so I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? And my brother said to me, Sarah, I'm just sick of hearing about all of these things that you can't do. I want to hear about what you can do. And he challenged me to start my own e-commerce business. And I did. And having come from a career that I had come from where problem solving was my everyday, like people were coming to me with, decisions that were multiple $1 million decisions, I somehow thought I didn't have the skill that I needed to be able to start my own website. Anyway, I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, well, I've got all the time on my hands and I've done all of these amazing things. Surely I can do this. So I just started and I built my website first. And then it was probably about 24 to 48 hours. And I had already built my website. And then I was feeling much better about it. And I knew that if a client found my website, that they would be able to make a purchase. So I thought, oh my goodness, I best get a product. So then I got a product. And then from there, I named the business. So to answer your question, because that was a bit of a long-winded story, it was all about knowing myself and knowing that if I didn't have a project to be working on, that I probably wouldn't be a nice person to be around. So I set about finding something to put my energy and my passion into, and that's how it all started.
I love that. And I love that you had the awareness to recognize this in yourself. And instead of judging it or beating yourself up and saying, oh no, I should just do this, I should be a full-time mom, or I should, do something different now, you recognized what you needed. And so you were able to give that to yourself, which allowed you to be a better, not only business owner, but a better parent, a better sister, wife, all of the above. And now you're running a 6-figure e-com business and you have a podcast where you share your tips and tricks for small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And the podcast itself was a pivot because I had been working, like the start of the business was very much a decision to do something to keep my mind engaged. And very quickly I realized, oh my God, this is quite good. Like I can make a really good income out of this. I'm interested in it. I felt super passionate about it because one thing that happens in big corporate spaces is that you're not the only decision maker. You'll go into a room, into a meeting, and you might have a great idea and then somebody else will put a little bit of spin on it. And then all of a sudden it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like. Whereas with this business, every decision that I made, every piece of effort that I put in, I was rewarded with. And very quickly I realized that this was going to be something awesome. But I was building and growing my social media community. And I'd grown my social media account to around 7,000 people, which I was, just thinking, oh my goodness, like if I had to stand in front of that amount of people, that's just huge. And I was so proud. And then someone hacked my account and I lost my entire social media community. And even though I had other marketing strategies in place, I had an ad on TV, I've been in magazines and all of that sort of thing. As soon as your social media get hacked, your sales just take a big nosedive. And I was wondering, really, should I keep going with this? Is this going to work? Here we go. We're back. The kids are back.
The little manager's back.
Yes, he's back. This is my Jackie boy.
Hello. Welcome to the PivotCast.
Yeah, welcome. So I was sitting there and I was thinking, can I keep going with this? Like all of this effort that I've put in has, somewhat been taken away. And then after a couple of weeks, my husband said to me, no, you have to keep going with this. You love it. You're passionate about it. It's working out so well. Pick yourself up and go again. And I was thinking, how can I do this in a way where I not only take myself on the journey, but I take other small businesses on the journey with me as well. So my podcast is totally set up so that my husband and I do like a little bit of an introduction, and then we bring on another small business as a guest. And we talk about small business tips and tricks. We share things that I've learned along the way. We share experiences like what happens when your social media gets hacked and how can you safeguard yourself against that happening, but also what other strategies can you put in place so that it doesn't have such a big effect on your business. And the real beauty comes from the fact that I share the tips and tricks to my audience, but my guests also share it to their audience, but they get some really good value and exposure out of it because they get shared to such a big community, and they can find new clients and I can find new clients. So instead of it just being all about me and asking people to share my page or wear my clothes or give my business a shout out, I also add value to their business by being able to share them to such a big network.
I love that. And I think that really also highlights a few things that I'd just like to touch on for those who might be considering to start their own business. Number one is the importance of using social media as a tool, but not allowing it to be your only method of communicating with your community, making sure you have different avenues so that should something like this happen, you've got that fail safe. The second thing is your resilience. So the ability to pick yourself back up after all of this was taken away from you. So that's what I call the Jedi way of being a pivoter. You know, you're mastering that internal force. You allowed yourself to feel the feelings, right? It was shitty, but you then got right back on the horse and you're like, no, I'm going to keep going because this is important to me. I find value in this, and you're passionate. And that is what most of us stop doing because we just think, oh, the world's out to get us, and we let those external factors pull too much. So that's a really beautiful reminder, especially in entrepreneurship, right, Sarah? It's going to be even worse than in the business world because you put your heart and soul into your business. It's not just, some big corporation that you're working for. And then the third thing, is how we grow that pie together. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like engineering or construction or, any other field where you win the contract or you lose the contract, right? And so it's either mine or yours. Whereas now it's about it being ours. How do we grow and cultivate this community so that we all get more and we can all do better and grow together?
Absolutely. And it was really important to me because I feel like when you are in a corporate space, one of the real bonuses about being in that space is that you have a work team and you have colleagues. When you are working by yourself, sometimes you do have to find your own tribe. And I'm really lucky to have been able, make some beautiful connections, like even with yourself. It's so nice to, even though it's remote, we still, can come to each other with questions or for support. But I felt like that's something that's really lacking, I guess, in the small business space, particularly entrepreneurship, particularly when you're working online, is that you don't really have a colleague to go to and say, what should I do about this? So the podcast is very much designed to, open up and share my experiences and invite other people to share so that people don't feel so alone. Because it can be a really lonely journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the things you and I bonded over the first time we connected outside of, our coaching mastermind calls, because especially those early stages of starting up your own business, when you make that pivot from corporate into starting your own thing, especially when you're a high-powered female, right? And you're used to dealing with masculine energy and you're a driver and you're go, go, go all the time. You then apply that to your own business, which is a very quick way to burn out and a very quick way to lose your passion about things, right? And so I love that you said building your tribe, because it is what you need to do so that you have people to go to and ask questions. And I love that that's what you're doing with your community. And that's what I'm doing here with the Pivot Cast as well, wanting to share these stories so people don't feel alone, right? Most of us go through life with these stories and we think we're the only ones that feel this way. And we maybe feel shameful about it for whatever reason, right? Whatever programming we've been given in life. And we don't talk about it. And the more we can use our voice to share in story, the more we're going to be able to connect and learn so that we can pivot into the directions that we do want to go into, rather than being stuck in something that we don't want to be in.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I guess that probably brings me to my next pivot, though, is that once I'd always done a little bit of coaching with people on the side because I'm quite tech savvy, and I would get questions from people about, their websites or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had done a little bit of coaching in that space to help people more with the technical side of their business. But once
Right.
I started the podcast, and I was really putting myself out there as somebody who was easy to talk to and who would share their experiences, I started getting people, and at the start it was one or two, and then it was 10
Yeah.
or 20, and coming to me and asking questions. And they were the same questions. And that's how I sort of, I guess, I say fell into, but that's probably not really accurate. I think, again, it was the awareness that I'm getting these same questions over and over again. And the answer might be slightly different for different industries, but ultimately it's the same. And I put my content and the questions that they were asking and the answers that I was giving into a really structured approach. And that is what is now my e-commerce coaching course. It's all about how to attract a customer, convert a customer into a sale, deliver on what you said you were going to, and then scale your business. Because once you're delivering, you need to attract more customers and go through that process again. So that's very much what I do in the coaching space. But again, it came from recognizing that that's what people in my community were needing. And if I'm really honest, if I take myself back to when I started my e-commerce business, that's what I needed 5 years ago. That's what
Yeah.
I needed.
I could have used your course when I launched Aveda in 2020 because I had no idea what I was doing.
I know.
And
I know.
this is a beautiful example of how you also use your transferable skills, right? Your skill set that you received over the 19-year career you had in mining, and how you then took that knowledge, that experience, that structure of project management and your experience of working with people and applied that to the e-commerce business. And then very quickly from there, you were able to design a structure for other people to follow after you went through the potholes for us and you
Yeah,
you figured out
absolutely.
all the do's and don'ts so that we could learn from that. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. And one thing that I was thinking about this morning when I was getting ready was that um, education and further learning and courses and self-development are so prevalent in a career like mine. There wouldn't have
Mm,
been a year, there wouldn't have been a quarter where I wasn't encouraged to go through a course, or I,
right.
didn't have a one-day training, or I wasn't upskilled in a certain area, or have a workshop on communication. So, like you say, 19 years of education, all in a business manager space, coupled with what I've then learned in this e-commerce space, um, puts me in a good position to be able to help these people. But also, the parallel that I'm drawing there is that in my mining career, it is expected that you will continue to educate yourself and that you will continue to
Mm,
grow and continue to learn. But somehow, when we put ourselves into this small business space, we think we can do it all ourselves. And really, I think that
right.
people need to, open themselves up a little bit more to the learning, because if this is your full-time gig, this is how you derive the money for your family, this is how you derive your income, then you need to continue to learn and grow, and you shouldn't
Oh,
be
absolutely.
expected to do all of that by yourself.
Yeah. And it's this concept that some people have of, oh, let me just go to school, let me go to uni, and then I'm done. It's like, no, we are still learning beyond that. Our brains are plastic, right? Neuroplasticity. We have the ability to grow and change, and we want to. And because being the same, can you imagine that you graduated 19, from your master's degree 19 years ago, and you didn't learn, and like you tried to stay that same Sarah, you would not have been able to survive or grow within your own career or start your own business, because it takes energy to try to stay the same when the environment around you is changing. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
yes, those external forces, we don't want them to pull on us in terms of emotion, so we're not reactionary, we're not triggered, but we need to be aware of what's going on so that we can see the signs, those lead indicators of, oh, maybe I should learn this, right?
Hmm.
Maybe this would be useful for me. And as technology changes, I mean, just look at let's take our grandparents, for example. My grandma was
Yeah.
telling me a story about riding a horse and buggy to church in Poland when she was a young girl. And now she's on a mobile device on Facebook messaging me, sending me gifts and, video messages. So like what a
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah.
We have to learn these new things. And so what would you say is the number one thing anyone who's looking to perhaps exit their corporate gig and start
Mhm.
something on their own? What is the first step that they should take from your experience?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say, in my experience, that I spent a long period of time thinking about, uh, like, what could I do? Um,
Mm,
you know, what would be good for me to do? What skills do I have? And I would talk myself out of it before I'd even started. So I would say to just take a step. Take a single step every day in the direction of doing something for yourself. And it doesn't have to
mm,
be perfect. My business looks absolutely nothing like it did when I
yeah.
started. But because of the high powered nature of what we're doing, we can get caught up in the sums and the numbers and how will
Mm,
I, bring people into my community. The end goal should not be what we focus on. The goal that we should focus on is the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step, and it will
yeah,
unfold as it is supposed to. And it doesn't have
I
to
love
stay
it.
the same. Yeah.
No, and it shouldn't stay the same because
No.
you are changing and growing. The environment is changing and growing. Whether you're dealing with a product or a service, those are going to change as well, right? I think
Mhm.
our coach said it best of when you have your own business, it's the fast track to dealing with your own shit. So you're really gonna get a lot of things that come up because it's you. And so
Yeah.
maybe you were a very confident presenter before, but now that it's your own, all of a sudden you want to be quiet and you want to hide. And it's like, oh, what are they gonna think of it? Right. And so
Mm.
it's that emotional detachment from the outcome, right? Not putting these rigid rules in place or putting it in a box of this is what it must look like. Because guess what? You might design that box to be red with a big bow on top and it's like 8 meters by 8 meters. And then you get a 6 meter by 10 meter box that's blue with ribbons instead of a bow. And it's still really fucking great. But you're too busy
Mhm.
looking at the red box to think, oh, I don't like this one. I don't have what I want. You still have
Yeah.
something that's good and you could allow yourself to enjoy that because it's hitting all the things that you need for fulfillment. But because you're so rigidly looking at this red box, um, you're not happy.
Yeah.
And yes, that was a
Absolutely.
tie to the Matrix. Red
Uh,
and blue.
No, I
Um,
completely agree with you. But the other thing that I would say to somebody is to like educate yourself. You can,
yeah.
like we were talking about before with my education, one thing that I did is I did my degree and my master's degree via correspondence. And I was working in a coal mine the whole time that I was doing my
Mm,
degree. And that was so great because I am a see, do, experience learner.
yes.
So if I was reading something in my textbook and I was like, I don't know what that means, I would say something to someone at work and they would say, get your belt and we'll go down the mine and have a look. And that was a
Yeah.
great way for me to learn. And then I have continued to learn and develop all of that time. So I would say, not only just take a step, but also educate yourself wherever you can. If that is reading, talking, joining groups, getting a coach.
Mm,
I think getting a coach is probably one of the best things that you can do to hold yourself accountable because also um,
absolutely.
there's that accountability factor that comes in when you're like, oh,
Yes.
should I do X, Y, or should I do the thing that's really hard that will take my
Yeah.
business forward?
It's just like why people get a coach when they want to do a body transformation, right? They
Yeah.
know that there's going to be somebody to answer to that's going to be looking at the weights that they're doing, the macros, are they showing up at all? And,
Mhm.
that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it makes you move, right? It makes you do the thing. And it goes the same whether you're starting your own business or you want to learn something. We get to learn from other people's experiences from their knowledge. There's different flavors out there, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I like to equate it to flavors of ice cream. Maybe most of the time you like chocolate, that's me. But some days you want a lemon sorbet. right? So
Yeah.
finding those different flavors for yourself so you get that nuance, that perspective. And I'm a see, do, learn. I wonder if this is a Sarah thing, because
Maybe.
I also like to really experience, but there's different
Mm.
learners. Some people like to visually learn, some people are auditory.
Yeah.
I'm clearly visual, which is why my pivot cast is on video so people can see our expressions and how we interact with each other.
Mhm.
Experiences also make things tangible. And as humans, that's how we connect. That's how we create new neural pathways. And that's how we really make it ours, our own experience.
Yeah.
Um, and the working while you're learning, I think a lot of people have this mindset of, well, if I go back to school, I can't work. And that's completely not the case. You have LinkedIn Learning, you have Coursera or Coursera or however it's pronounced. There's all these different platforms, so many different coaches in the online space. And
Mhm.
it's just recognizing that learning is a lifelong process. So if you can fall in love with learning and being curious, I think for me, curiosity is one of my top values. And I think that what you've said about the learning process, that becoming a skill set, learning how to learn and how to love learning, that's going to take
Mhm.
you really far, especially if you're owning your own business.
Yeah, and I think, just to pick on a few words that you said there, I love to learn. I love it. I
Mm,
love learning something new. And with my children, they're only 4 and 3, and I love watching how curious they are about learning
mm,
different things. And I hope that
yeah,
they can see through me that it doesn't have to you don't have to get one degree and then stay the path and stay in that career for the rest of your life. It's not by any means that I've thrown that out the window. It's actually the opposite. I've
yeah,
taken every single thing that I have learned along the journey, and now I'm putting that into what I'm doing now and continuing to add more to my tool bag all the time. And it's, like
yeah.
you said, it's just such a lifelong thing. I hope that when I'm 80, I'm still, reading books and trying to learn something new.
Absolutely. I mean, in Asia, I spent 12 years in Asia, and, Mahjong is a really big game. And
Yes, yeah.
there's also lower levels of Alzheimer's and dementia amongst the older population in those countries where the elderly are playing games that require the use of their mind. And so it's a muscle. Just like we can grow and change it when we're older, we can also let it become stagnant and rigid and then lose the ability, right? Those pathways might shut down. So
Mm.
I mean, I'll be right there with you. We can be, we can
Pushing each
do
other along.
yeah, we'll do a recap in like 40 years, guys, and we're going to look back on this podcast on April 12th, 2022, and reminisce about the pivots that our careers have taken throughout the times.
We'll be on a different platform by then for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We'll probably be just like in our minds, like boop, like connecting. Maybe we'll be pivot casting to other, other
Maybe I'll
worlds,
finally get
other
my
ways.
hoverboard by then.
Yes, it'll be like the Jetsons, right?
Yeah,
That'll be our
yeah,
future.
for sure.
Um, Amazing. And what you talked about as well is how you're leveraging all your experience. I think this is a really important point for anyone who is finding themselves in a point of pivot, because sometimes we feel like we've lost our career or our job or our identity. And so as you pivot into a new area, you are going to find this re-identification process, right?
Yeah,
And it's not starting over, it's starting from
yeah,
experience. And that
yeah, exactly.
experience is something that is invaluable. And so, looking at what you have done in the past and what you can do, those transferable skills, that's going to be how you market yourself, whether that's going into a different corporate career or starting your own business.
Oh, absolutely. And, with my career, I have employed numerous people over the years. And when you're starting your career, you think that that certificate or that piece of paper or that degree is the be all and end all to get you the position that you need. I'm a
Yeah.
master's degree qualified engineer, and I can tell you probably, well, the piece of paper never really got me a single job because I was already working for the company that I continued to work for once I'd graduated, because I was doing that by correspondence. So the
Right.
actual degree never came into play. And every job that I got from that point onwards was based on my experience.
Yes. I love that you brought this up because also my experience in the aviation field and the business jet industry, maybe the very first, no, my second job actually, but when I was applying for roles and they were just looking at my degree and that piece of paper, it was actually not even my major that was what
Mm.
attracted them. It was the fact that I had studied Mandarin. And then literally from that point on, I never applied for another job. I was always invited to apply or, you know, what is it called? Headhunted because of my
Mm.
experience, because of the networking that I was doing. And I think that's also a very important point for those starting their own business. It's about leveraging your network. Who in your sphere has the skill set that you don't? Who in your sphere knows somebody that you don't that can make that introduction? There, you know, whether it's a friend or somebody from your old corporate space, lean into that. Ask for the
Mm.
support and make sure that you cultivate the network that you want to use. You know, your network is your net worth. I think someone named Gail something said that, and it's really stuck with
That's a
me.
good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
one.
absolutely. Beautiful. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for this amazing interview. I'm sure we could probably sit on here for hours and hours and talk about
Definitely,
all of these
definitely.
things. Can you let us know where can our viewers follow you and find you? Obviously on Instagram, it's the e-commerce hub, and you know all of your socials will be tagged when we post up the video. But what is the best place for people to learn a little bit more about your coaching program, West of the Waves, and how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, for sure. So West of the Waves is just west underscore of underscore the underscore waves. So that's where you can shop all of our beautiful linen and jewelry. But on Instagram is probably the best at the
Okay.
underscore ecom underscore hub. I'm the only person
Yes.
who responds to messages on there, so feel free to send me a message. And then from there, if you're interested in getting more tips and tricks, we do have a private online Facebook group that you can join where we share, I guess, you know, the next level of tips and tricks if people are interested in joining our group.
Yeah, beautiful. I
Yeah.
can attest the group is really good. So make sure you jump on in there, especially if you already own your own business or you're looking to start a new one. It's really, really helpful to have that community that is instrumental, especially in the early days. And I see Anna's been giving us some love and support on Facebook. She's
Thank
watching our
you.
live right now. And she's talking about that resilience and that support as a solopreneur is really, really valuable. So thank you, Anna, for being with us live. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And so I wanted to just end by thanking everyone who's watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. Thank you for joining us. We'd love for you to take a moment and comment with what your biggest takeaway from today's episode was. And just remember that real pivoters are human beings just like me and you. So all it takes is the choice to go out and do something different today. What is the one thing that's going to make you sparkle a little bit and keep on keeping on? Go ahead and do that. All right. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.